Hello and welcome to the open format. In this episode, we're going to talk about Delhi's first female emperor. Well, we're not talking about any chief minister of Delhi for that matter, but a ruler of Dilli Sultanate. दिल्ली सल्तनत वॉज अ बिग एम्पायर, एक बहुत बड़ा साम्राज्य था वो. अगर हम देखें आज के नक्शे में उसको, नॉर्थ वेस्टर्न पार्ट ऑफ इंडिया विच पार्ट्स ऑफ पाकिस्तान नाउ, and it stretches up till parts of East India till West Bengal and little above the Deccan. तो इतना बड़ा एम्पायर था. उसकी फर्स्ट फीमेल एम्परर सुल्ताना रजिया. रजिया सुल्तान भी उनको कहा जाता है, बट दैट इज़ अगेन अ फेयरली डिबेटेबल नेम. रजिया सुल्तान की अगर हम बात करें सो उनकी कई ऐसी चीज़ें हैं उनके बारे में जो लिखी गई हैं विच इज़ इन द एम्बिट ऑफ अ ग्रेटर डिस्कशन. Besides being Delhi's first emperor, well, there are first thing about her is, was her name Sultana Razia or Razia Sultan? We'll talk about that. Secondly, most important thing, after her assassination or after her demise, where her remains were buried. Was it in Delhi or elsewhere? We'll talk about that. Now, where I'm drawing this from, when we started प्रोफाइलिंग रज़िया सुल्तान फॉर अ टॉकिंग हिस्ट्री सीरीज़, हमने देखा कि दिल्ली में उनके, हालांकि वो दिल्ली की एम्परर रही हैं, दिल्ली सल्तनत की जो हैं पूरी एम्परर रही हैं, बट एज आई सेड कि जो पुरानी से भी पुरानी दिल्ली है, जो पुरानी दिल्ली शाहजहानाबाद को जो बोला जाता है पुरानी दिल्ली, टू विच आई हैव माई सीरियस ऑब्जेक्शंस, बिकॉज शाहजहानाबाद से भी पुरानी दिल्लियाँ हैं, उसके बारे में हम बात नहीं करते हैं और we sort of ignore it. But here I would say when we started profiling Razia Sultana for Talking History series, we found there is extremely minuscule amount of content and even lesser archaeological remains that can be traced to Razia Sultan or Sultana Razia. Let me start first with the name. Razia was Iltutmish's daughter. Now, Iltutmish was Delhi Sultanate's first ever emperor after Qutb-ud-din Aibak left or bequeathed the emperor to Iltutmish. Iltutmish dies in 1236 AD. उसके बाद there was a war of succession. Now, that was to become a norm, as we say, or for that matter, that has always been a norm, even if we talk about the ancient history. There has been battle of succession between the progenies of the emperor who is dead, or for that matter कि जब किसी राजा ने अपनी जो आयर है, अपना जो उनका आगे उत्तराधिकारी कौन होगा उसके बारे में अगर कोई डिसीजन नहीं लिया है, तो अक्सर हमने देखा है कि उनके बच्चों के बीच में, खासकर कि जो उनके जो लड़के हैं उनके बीच में काफ़ी जंग हुई हैं, लड़ाइयाँ हुई हैं. दैट इज़ अ नॉर्म. बट फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम वी सी इन दिल्ली देयर वाज अ बैटल ऑफ सक्सेशन, as there were certain circumstances, peculiar circumstances. Iltutmish has appointed during his reign his son, he was the ablest of son, Nasruddin Mahmud, as his successor. He has chosen him as his successor. And he had the other son, Ruknuddin Firoz, who was considered as person with a lot of vices. एकदम अय्याश किस्म का आदमी उसको बोलते थे, रुकनुद्दीन फिरोज को. So between the two, he had chosen Nasruddin Mahmud, but unfortunately Nasruddin Mahmud died even before Iltutmish, or even before the issue of succession was settled. Now, what happened after his death? Ruknuddin Firoz, as we have seen a lot of time in these royal houses or battle royale, there is always this intrigue, the court intrigue, the intrigue within the houses. And in those days the emperor had more than one wives, more than one spouses. So of course there was a battle between the two of them, as well as three of them, more than of them, between who was the chosen one and whose children would eventually be considered for the succession. Now we find that after death of Iltutmish, and of course the prior death of Nasruddin Mahmud, the throne was empty, and Ruknuddin Firoz, with the help of the clerics, assumes the charge of Dilli Sultanate. That was something which wasn't acceptable to Razia. She has been ableist. She has also been claimant to the throne for she used to ride horse. She was very public. उनके बारे में जो कहानियाँ हैं दैट वी फाउंड आउट वाइल profiling her for talking history. She used to go to public, used to take feedback of the rule of the government of the day, whether things are going in right direction or not, and then the feedback mechanism was also very transparent. वो अपने जो पिता जब उस टाइम पे उनके इल्तुतमिश जो है when he was the ruler, so she used to also give him information. We know for the fact कि रज़िया ने अपने रूल के टाइम पे दो किले बनवाए थे जिसमें से या महल बनवाए थे जिसमें एक का नाम था कौशिक सब्ज़ और एक का नाम था कौशिक लाल या फ़िरोज़ा. उसमें उसके अलावा जो है शी हैड मिंटेड कॉइन्स इन अ नेम. लेकिन ऐसा हम लोगों को कोई आर्कियोलॉजिकल रिमेन नहीं मिला उस चीज़ का. ऑफ कोर्स लाइक देयर इज these stories are not disputable, and these things did happen. I mean, Razia Sultan was here, but going forward we could not find any archaeological remains of these things. That's a sad part because that is something which our early medieval history of Delhi is replete with. We have amazing text, we have brilliant stories, we have passages, we have large descriptive stories about what happened in the city. कौन सी city में क्या हुआ था, किलोखरी में क्या हुआ, सीरी में क्या हुआ, तुगलकाबाद में क्या हुआ. ऑफ कोर्स तुगलकाबाद के रिमेन्स हैं, महरौली में ये हुआ वो हुआ, लेकिन वहाँ पे जो फोर्ट्स हैं, वहाँ पे जो महल थे, वो अब सब जो हैं ख़त्म हो गए हैं, सबमर्ज हो गए हैं. I mean, urban population has overtaken, and of course there is also a lot of I mean consumption of these materials with time. So you will not find any of those remains, or rather most of the remains are basically it's now converted into more urban living. That's a sad part, by the way, because when we talk of Delhi तो हम सिर्फ पुरानी दिल्ली वहीं पे रिस्ट्रिक्ट कर देते हैं शाहजहानाबाद पे, और हम पीछे और नहीं जाते हैं, और we sort of ignore it because ठीक बात भी है कि वहाँ पे कुछ खास शायद हम लोगों को मिल नहीं पाएगा. बट देन I'm sure like आगे जाके इस बारे में और काम होगा, and we will get to know more and more about the intricate aspects of the earlier Delhis. We know quite a bit, possibly we'll get to know more going forward. Now going forward in this podcast हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं सुल्ताना रज़िया की. So of course उनका जो half brother था रुकनुद्दीन फिरोज, he takes over the throne, and then like there was an agitation, and then of course there was a revolt. Razia was campaigning in Kilokri. Kilokri is, I mean, in आज की तारीख में Mehrauli, जहाँ पे which was the seat of power of Dilli Sultanate, and Kilokri, Maharani Bagh, not very far, but I mean really 800 years ago it was quite a distance. तो bullock cart से अगर आप चलना शुरू करें, even up, and if it's a military campaign or even a small level military campaign, it's fraught with its own risk. So I'm sure उनको कुछ समय लगा होगा, या फिर दोनों की सेनाओं को आमने सामने कहीं पे मिली होंगी तो उनको समय लगा होगा, या सीरी में या कहीं और किसी प्लेन्स पे. तो जिसके बाद जो है Razia succeeds. The best part was Razia succeeds and she becomes an emperor. Now उनका जो है रूल 4 साल ही रहा. It was just for 4 years, but her rule was known for quite a good things. First of all, she minted coins in her name, and post that she had worked for the economy of a fledgling empire. It was a new empire. दिल्ली सल्तनत बनी ही थी, तकरीबन 1190 के आसपास जो है ये सब गतिविधियाँ शुरू हुई थी, और आफ्टर जस्ट इन अ मैटर ऑफ 4 decades we have seen rapid urbanization of Delhi Sultanate, and then like of course that requires economy and market as well. So Razia was responsible for sprucing up those social, those economics and those market dynamics in Delhi Sultanate during her very short tenure of 4 years. 4 साल काफ़ी कह सकते हैं इंटरेस्टिंग रहे. उस टाइम पे बिल्कुल नई नई दिल्ली सल्तनत थी, तो उसमें जो है सबसे पहला तो मसला ये था कि भैया उनका नाम क्या है. इज़ इट रज़िया सुल्ताना या सुल्तान रज़िया. उनके अपने वर्ड्स में रज़िया ने कहा कि मेरा नाम है सुल्तान जलालुद्दीन रज़िया. क्योंकि अगर आप सुल्तान को या सुल्ताना को किसी के नाम के बाद लगाते हैं एज अ सफिक्स एंड नॉट अ प्रीफिक्स, क्योंकि उन्होंने अपना जो सुल्तान वर्ड है वो एज अ प्रीफिक्स यूज़ किया, नॉट एज अ सफिक्स। बट कभी कभार हम देखते हैं कि पॉपुलर डिस्कोर्स में हम उनको रज़िया सुल्तान बोलते थे। नाउ देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन द टू। If it's a prefix like Sultan so and so, that means the emperor, no dispute. If it's a suffix so and so Sultan or so and so Sultana, that would mean either they are the partner, the spouse of a monarch, or children of a monarch. So clearly, she was there to differentiate between the two, and she stood to her ground after assuming the crown or throne. She said, "My name is Sultan Jalaluddin Razia." But what were the reasons कि इतनी effective ruler जो हैं, her rule was only confined to 4 years? Because she was killed in 1240. She was fairly young. She was just 4 years in a reign when she was killed. इसके reasons are clearly the political rivalry between Razia and the bureaucratic clique called Chahalgani. Now, in the medieval India, Chahalganis, or for that matter, in early medieval India, ever since the arrival of the Turk dynasty, the Turkic Slavic dynasty who established Dilli Sultanate, these Chahalganis played an important role. Who were Chahalgani? Chahalgani kaun the? In a very simple way, in those days, in early Dilli Sultanate, there were two kind of cliques. One were the Turkic ethnic bureaucrats, and the other were the Tajik ethnic bureaucrat. The Turks were the ones who were the ruling clan as well, like Iltutmish, like both his wives, Shah Turkan and Shah Turkan, and others, I presume. Whereas these Tajiks, I mean, they were in bureaucracy, लेकिन उनको जो है ज़्यादा civilian bureaucracy में रखा जाया करता था. Say for instance, नॉन मिलिट्री रोल उनको मिला करते थे, नॉन पुलिसिंग रोल उनको मिलते थे, बट जहाँ पे अथॉरिटी की बात हुआ करती थी दैट यूज्ड टू गो टू टर्क्स. इल्तुतमिश की डेथ के बाद, आफ्टर डिमाइस ऑफ इल्तुतमिश, देयर वर दीज skirmishes between these two ethnicity, or to say these two groups amongst the bureaucrats, between the Turks and the Tajiks. So Tajiks were persecuted. Now these Turks were Chahalganis who assumed the role of a super cabinet. तो वो एक तरीके से पर्दे के पीछे से राज चलाया करते थे. ये भी कहा जाता है कि जो इल्तुतमिश के वजीर थे निज़ामुल मुल्क जुनैदी, उनको भी चहलगनी टर्क ने या उनके लोगों ने उनको मार दिया था, सो दैट दे कुड हैव अ वेरी क्लियर सक्सेशन. और जो भी यहाँ पे इस टाइम पे थ्रोन पे आएगा, एंड दे विल ओनली हियर to their opinions and not to any others, so that at least they'll have a primacy in the entire court, in the entire ruling court. It will be the Chahalgani, the Turkic Chahalgani, Turkic bureaucracy who will be having a say and nobody else. So clearly they were against any other ruler besides the choice what they made. तो उनको आपत्ति थी कि रज़िया कैसे बन गई. तो certainly they were plotting her downfall, and within that, I mean, they succeeded. Yes, they succeeded. Because it's not a film, it's not any phantasmatic story, it is a real event, real politics, and hardcore politics. ज़रूरी नहीं है कि जो ठीक होता है उसमें, I mean, they are able to sustain the momentum. Sometimes, even maybe for that matter, for a short span, people who are on the wrong side, even they are able to prevail. तो ऐसे ही उनके किंगडम में रिवोल्ट हुआ, और जो उनके एक गवर्नर थे अल्तूनिया भटिंडा के, he was the one who was able to raise a revolt against her because he was amongst the powerful of the generals, and he captured her. बाद में कहा जाता है कि अल्तूनिया was the one who married her, and possibly he supported her when she rose in insurrection against the Chahalganis and the then ruler Sayyid Behram Shah, who was also her half brother. Fast forward, what happens to Razia? There are two versions. पहली बात यह है कि कहा जाता है कि Razia was killed by some thugs as she was en route to Delhi from Bhatinda, and she is buried somewhere in Cattle. That is one version which is disputed, highly disputable. इसका कोई archaeological trace नहीं मिला है. Secondly, there is a grave site in Purani Delhi in Shahjahanabad's Turkeman Gate, which is labelled and considered as grave of Sultana Razia. कहा जाता है कि after coming to Delhi along with Altunia so as to fight and take back the empire, take back the power, she could not sustain and she was grievously injured. उसके बाद she just managed to flee somewhere from Mehrauli and she landed here near the banks of Yamuna. I mean, in 1200s, the course of Yamuna was fairly near Turkeman Gate, and I'm not surprised with that because just 150 years ago, Yamuna used to flow right next to the Red Fort wall, where now we have a ring road. So, आज से 800 साल पहले, I'm not surprised if Yamuna was far wider and it had one part of banks towards where right now Turkeman Gate stands. So Turkeman Gate के पास she was found injured and then she succumbs to her injury and then her mausolea was constructed over there. So that was the only trace we were able to find while working on Razia's story in Delhi. अब जब रज़िया के बारे में कुछ नहीं मिल रहा, so how do we proceed with the production? We were lucky that one of the PhD students of University of Manchester came to our rescue. We saw her work, Dr. Sabina Shah. She was really intrigued with the life of Sultana Razia. She had made a puppetry-based presentation for her thesis, and she had very kindly allowed us to use for our Talking History episode pro bono, जो आप अभी screen पे देख रहे हैं. So this is what we had used to tell the story of Sultana Razia. It's a beautiful, beautiful puppetry animation, stop motion animation using puppets, and this is what you see is Razia on the horse. She's now entering Delhi and eventually she'll be going inside a fort. There you see. She is with her father, Iltutmish. And there are the characters as well, while their acts are also defined in this puppetry production. Clearly wonderful work. That's why I say कि हम जब भी कोई production करते हैं, whenever we make documentary, sometimes we are hard pressed कि we will not find anything which is in the physical shape. So we have to be imaginative. You have to look for these things, puppets, look for maps, look for pictures. Try and use pictures in as many ways as possible. So only then you'll be able to have a greater edge in your production. Otherwise, your production will be only one-dimensional. Stories हैं, उस पे आपने visual चला दिए हैं, but it's more than that. So clearly, this is one aspect which really enriched our production, the puppetry performance or the puppetry production, stop motion production of puppetry by Dr. Sabina Shah. Well, that's it in this episode. Hope you like this one, and of course the use of puppetry in terms of story depiction, which is also one of the ways to spruce up your documentary features, your storytelling. That's it. Goodbye. See you soon with another story on the open format. So please follow and subscribe to this channel and keep giving me feedback. See you soon. Goodbye.